What does it mean to be educated? Does it mean getting a degree from a prestigious university, or being able to recall a list of historical facts and dates? Or is it something deeper, something more dangerous, and something far more transformative? What if a real education wasn't about learning what to think, but about learning how to think for yourself, especially when it costs you everything you've ever known and everyone you've ever loved? Tara Westover's breathtaking memoir, Educated, is not just a story about going to school. It is the unforgettable and often brutal story of the true price of an education. It's a journey that begins on a remote mountain in Idaho in a world of religious fundamentalism, of scrapyard dangers, and of a deep distrust of the outside world. And it ends in the hallowed halls of Cambridge University with a young woman who has gained the whole world of knowledge but has lost her own family in the process. This is not a story about classrooms. It is the profound and philosophical story of the incredible, courageous, and painful act of creating a self. The kingdom on Buck's Peak. To understand Tara Westover's journey, you must first understand the isolated and unique world she was born into. She grew up at the foot of a mountain called Buck's Peak in rural Idaho, in a radical, off-the-grid Mormon survivalist family. Her world was defined and completely controlled by the powerful, charismatic, and increasingly paranoid worldview of her father, Gene Westover. Her father believed that the modern world, what he called the world of men, was corrupt and headed for an imminent apocalypse, the days of abomination. He distrusted the government, he distrusted the public school system, and he distrusted modern medicine. As a result, the Westover children were born at home with no birth certificates. They never went to school, and they never, ever went to a doctor. Sicknesses were treated with the herbal remedies of their mother, a gentle but subservient herbalist and midwife. And horrific injuries, which were a common occurrence in the family's dangerous scrapyard business, were treated at home, with prayer and herbal tinctures. Tara describes watching her father suffer from a horrific burn that should have killed him, and seeing her mother recover from a severe brain injury, all without any medical intervention. Their life was a strange paradox. It was a life of incredible natural beauty, of freedom to roam the mountain. But it was also a life of intense dogmatic control. Their reality was shaped entirely by their father's interpretation of the Bible and the Book of Mormon. The world beyond the mountain was portrayed as a dangerous and sinful place. This was the only world Tara knew. Her father's voice was the voice of truth. The first cracks in this sealed-off world came from two of her older brothers, who represented two starkly different paths. The first was her brother Tyler. Tyler was different. He was quiet, he was studious, and he loved to learn. Against his father's wishes, he secretly taught himself enough math and science to take the ACT, and he managed to get into college. Tyler's departure was a seismic event in Tara's life. He was the first to prove that another world was possible. He was the one who on his visits home would tell her that she was smart and that she could get out too. He planted a seed of possibility in her mind, a seed that would, years later, grow into her own desire for an education. But there was another brother who represented the dark, violent, and inescapable reality of her life on the mountain. His name was Sean. Sean was charismatic and charming one moment and a terrifying, violent monster the next. Throughout her adolescence, Tara was the victim of his brutal and unpredictable physical and psychological abuse. He would drag her by her hair, twist her arm until she heard bones snap, and once, he shoved her head into a toilet. Even more damaging than the physical violence was the psychological torment. The family's response to this abuse was a masterclass in denial. After a violent episode, Sean would often become tender and apologetic, and the rest of the family would act as if nothing had happened. They would rewrite the memory in real time, smoothing over the jagged edges of the trauma. This culture of silence and denial taught Tara a devastating lesson: that her own perception of reality was not to be trusted. If the people she loved most were telling her that the terrible thing that had just happened hadn't really happened, then maybe she was the one who was crazy. This constant gaslighting, this warping of her own memory, was a wound far deeper than any physical injury. Inspired by Tyler and desperate to escape the escalating violence of her home, Tara makes a courageous decision. She decides she wants to go to college. This is a monumental task for a girl who has never been to school, who has never written an essay, and whose knowledge of the world is limited to her father's paranoid fundamentalist teachings. She buys an ACT prep book, and in the quiet moments when no one is watching, she begins to study. The story of her self-education is a testament to her incredible grit and intelligence. She slowly, painstakingly, teaches herself algebra and trigonometry and grammar. She takes the test, and against all odds, she scores high enough to be admitted to Brigham Young University. At 17, she sets foot in a classroom for the very first time, and the experience is one of profound, disorienting, and often humiliating culture shock. The world she encounters at BYU is completely alien to her. In a history class, when the professor mentions the Holocaust, she raises her hand and asks what it is. The entire class goes silent and she is consumed with a shame so deep it is almost physical. She had never heard of the Holocaust. She had never heard of the Civil Rights Movement, or Napoleon, or almost any of the basic historical facts that her classmates took for granted. Her education on the mountain had left vast, gaping holes in her understanding of the world. But this new world also provides her with moments of incredible, electrifying discovery. She learns about the great thinkers of history like John Stuart Mill. She learns about feminism. She learns about the science of psychology. Each new idea is a revelation. Each new fact is a direct challenge to the narrow, dogmatic worldview her father had constructed. Her mind, for the first time, is being exposed to a different set of stories, a different version of reality. And this is the beginning of her true education. It is not just the learning of facts, it is the slow, painful, and exhilarating process of learning to think for herself. The battle for the mind, Cambridge, and the nature of memory. Tara's academic journey is nothing short of meteoric. She is a brilliant and hungry student. Her hard work earns her a spot in a prestigious study abroad program at Cambridge University in England, and later she is accepted into a PhD program in history there. She has, by any measure, escaped. She has built a new life, a new identity, as a respected scholar in the intellectual capitals of the world. But the central conflict of educated is that you can never truly escape your past. The further she gets in her academic career, the more her new, educated self comes into a direct and painful conflict with her old self, the girl from the mountain. The battleground for this conflict is the nature of memory itself. As her education gives her a new language and a new framework for understanding her own life, words like bipolar disorder, trauma, abuse, she begins to see her own childhood with a new and terrifying clarity. She begins to trust her own memories of Sean's violence. But when she tries to confront her family with this truth, they circle the wagons. They deny her reality completely. They tell her she is mistaken, that she is exaggerating, that she has been corrupted by the evil, secular world of education. Her parents and most of her siblings present her with a united front, a completely different version of their shared history, one in which the abuse never happened. This forces Tara into the greatest crisis of her life. It is a crisis of epistemology, a philosophical battle over what is real. Is her own memory, her own lived experience the truth? Or is their collective, confident denial the truth? For a time, she's on the verge of a complete mental breakdown, consumed by doubt. She begins to believe that maybe she is the one who is crazy, that she has invented these terrible memories. This is the profound philosophical heart of the book. It is a story about the incredible coercive power of a family's shared narrative. And it is the story of the immense, almost superhuman courage it takes to hold on to your own sanity when everyone you love is telling you that you are wrong. It is in the archives of Cambridge, studying the work of historians and philosophers, that she finds the intellectual tools to save herself. She learns that perspectives can differ, that stories can be manipulated, but that there is such a thing as objective truth and that she has a right to her own. The price of a self, the final painful choice. The climax of the book is not a single dramatic event, but a slow, agonizing, and ultimately empowering realization. Tara comes to understand that she cannot hold on to both worlds. She cannot be the educated, self-aware woman who knows the truth about her past, and also be the loyal, obedient daughter that her family demands. The two selves are irreconcilable. She has to make a choice. Her father gives her an ultimatum. She can either renounce her demonic education and her false memories, and be welcomed back into the family, or she can be cast out forever. It is an impossible choice. The choice between her family, which is the source of all her love and her pain, and herself, the new, fragile, but authentic self that she has worked so hard to create. In the end, with immense sadness and profound courage, she chooses herself. She chooses her education. She chooses her own reality. She chooses to break away from the family she still loves, a decision that feels like a kind of death. The final message of Educated is a powerful and in some ways a tragic one. It is a story about the transformative, life-giving power of education. It is a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit. But it is also an honest and unflinching look at the price of that transformation. To create a new self, she had to let her old self, the girl from the mountain, die. And to be loyal to the truth, she had to be disloyal to her own tribe. The book is a universal story about the struggle we all face, in ways big and small, to find our own voice and to define our own truth, especially when it conflicts with the powerful stories our families and our cultures tell us. It is a beautiful and heartbreaking testament to the idea that a true education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. It is the process of learning to see the world with your own eyes, even if it means you have to walk a difficult and lonely path. If you believe that the most important journey is the one to find yourself, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Geeky Philosopher. Subscribe, and let's continue to explore the stories that define the very essence of what it means to be a self.